obviously. But she lives in a very middle-class area, a very rural area, and she's the only non-white in her school. I will not go and pick her up from school because of my belief of other parents' perceptions of my daughter because her father looks like I do. Now, you can frown as if to say, well, why? But the bottom line is, after 34 years of my life in this country, that's how I feel.
Oh, that's so sad.
And it's so...
Yeah?
I feel sad.
OK, now another reality of it,
Yeah.
and ask any of my friends, is I talk in terms of I play the game. OK? If you speak to me on the phone, you will have zero idea of what I look like. You either conform, in which case you get an easy life, or you fight against it and you'll end up criminalised, outcast and removed from the situation.
But Marvin, what you've said, I agree with, but it's not colour. You could be a skinhead and not want to pick your kid up from school. You can be a cockney and be on the phone.
The skinhead can let his hair grow. I'm talking wholly and exclusively based on the colour of my skin, nothing else. Just to qualify the thing about the school, part of the reason I don't go to the school is because, I mean, I'm mixed race, so I'm only half caste. My daughter has got a white mother, which means she's even lighter than me. Therefore, I believe that most, if not all, of the people at that school think she's white. If I turn up, then the children will see a different...
And treat her differently.
And again, it's not necessarily because these kids are ignorant, it's because these kids live in an environment that's wholly of white people. I chose to play the game.
That's right.
That's it.
We have to play the game. There is this game we have to play to get by.
White play the game as well. My ex-husband, for example, is in the sporting environment. He's taking on top quality customers, the RAF, people like that. But he conforms. He has to wear a business suit. He has to wear a tie. He has to speak beautifully. He has his short back and side haircut. He looks immaculately groomed. He's actually a rugby player from way back. He's happy wearing sloppy old jumpers.
Is he white?
He used to have his hair longer.
Is he white?
We have to conform as well.
Is he white?
That's not
conforming. You're talking about conforming. He would conform to pick up my daughter from her school. He would not turn up looking like a scruff bag with long hair, bad clothes, bad breath, unwashed, bad shoes.
Isn't that pride, though?
No, it's exactly the same. You're talking about your school environment with your daughter, my school environment with my daughter.
We all agree that it's not the same.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
It is. Sorry.
Yes.
Maybe to a lesser degree.
Let's agree. Let's agree to disagree.
But there was the assumption that racism is only particular for people who are black. And I don't actually agree with that. I think there's racism for white people just as much. I've been in this situation many times where I've had remarks made about my person, the fact that I'm white, that I'm blonde, that I'm getting old or whatever. I've come across just as much discrimination in my life as possibly many black people have.
But it's interesting now that the brown eye group are actually talking up. You know, the blue eyes were obviously saying, this is where I stand, I don't agree with this. And the brown eyes say, no, listen, these are the experiences that we have had, and make in relation to what people are actually saying in the blue eye group.
So what do you think this tells us then about discrimination in Britain?
In Britain, you've got an establishment with power. And that establishment, the people who are part of it, the rules, the laws that we have, are things that people take for granted as being fair. But they privilege a certain set of people more than everybody else. So it's not that we have one particular racial group that everybody's racist against. It's that there are many minority groups, all of which are disadvantaged by this system of power.
But you might walk away from this and say the white people in the blue-eyed group are just in denial.
I totally agree, because there's a sense of like, well, we're not racist and racism doesn't happen. Because the discourse now is like people are feeling, whether you're black, white, Asian, everyone feels they're being discriminated against. But what people are failing to recognise is the issue of power. And this is what Jane is trying to present, but they're not actually quite getting that right now.
But Jane Elliott is undeterred. and the segregation of the two groups continues during the food break. As the blues are kept together and fed basic sandwiches, the browns are given the freedom to enjoy a buffet.
And look what they're getting. Have you looked?
They're getting cordon bleu. We get a few sarnies.
This is where it takes the piss, actually.
It's not just the blues who are feeling hard done by. Over in the brown-eyed group, the black volunteers feel there is a lesson to be learnt. But one of the white volunteers doesn't think it's fair to label all whites as racist.
I'm getting drawn into something that I don't want to argue about because I don't want to see other people abused.
But the thing
you
is,
are saying that just because you are black, only black people experience racism. I grew up in a country full of people where there weren't any white people. I understand racism just like you understand racism. I don't have to be black to understand what it feels like to be a black person. You don't have to be white. You can still empathise with people.
When we first started, most of the people in the blues were in complete denial.
And now?
And then some shifted, and some
Everyone,
are still
but maybe
and then some are still, some are like this. Some have gotten up and walked out because they refuse to walk in our shoes for 2 hours.
It's being picked on, it's being bullied.
If you become
being a different...
you're closing yourself off to it.
Oh, that's rubbish. That's absolutely rubbish.
Now,
it just means it affects you.
Here's the way it is. The exercise is not over. Do you understand that? Because the blue-eyed people don't.
So there is more abuse to come if that's what you prefer to call it.
I just want to have a glass. She wanted people to understand what black people were going through, but she didn't want to understand what anybody else was going through. I hate people putting other people down. It's wrong, and I don't like it. It's not about being black or white to me, and I think it was a bigger issue. It wasn't just about... She made it too simple. She was separating us. There were black people and there were white people, and that was, as far as she concerned, that's all it was.
Jane Elliott's beliefs and methods have always been controversial. Is this bullying? Or is her unpopular approach revealing there is more racism beneath the surface than we think?
Once you start thinking, oh, everybody's looking at me, I'm different. Everybody's got it in
now, are they? There's nearly as many of them as us, so they're not different. Nobody,
But in my class, 1/3 of my class are black children. Then I've got a bunch of half-caste children. I've got one little girl who's stunningly beautiful. She fell over, scraped all her face. I admit I was slightly surprised that where she scraped all her face, it's all pink underneath. Right? Did I expect it to be black? I don't know.
So what you're saying is that everything that people of color say to you isn't true. It's their imagination. They're paranoid. They aren't paranoid. They know what's happening to them.
Throughout the day, Jane Elliott has divided the group by eye colour. But a bigger division has emerged between the white and black volunteers over what racism is. Do you think this whole exercise is able to deal with the subtleties of racism in 2009? The racism that isn't in your face, that's under the surface, that you may not spot, you may not notice?
No, that's the point isn't to be subtle. The point is to be brutal and show the brutality of discrimination as it happens, not individual to individual, but system to person. So how people suffer as a result of an unfair system.
For Jane Elliott's final flourish, everyone will sit an intelligence test. But she's rigged it, so the blue eyes will fail.
Brown-eyed people, move your chairs back away from these people, because if they can see your papers, they'll cheat.
To guarantee this, she's already given the Browns half the answers and told them to keep it quiet. For the first time, the Blues offer no resistance.
Hopefully it makes